You just tuned in to Up for Discussion. All right, we're up for discussion here at Ultra Products, and I feel like this week's episode is a special one. We've got a guest that, gosh, for weeks I've been excited about, and that's Doug Doty.
I've been
No,
very excited
I'm
too.
kidding. This week we've got JD Huitt with us. JD is, golly, we've known him for years now, and he has become an internet sensation.
Let's put a timestamp on the date, because we were out there just a second ago talking about it, and I was like, "Gosh, what's it been?"
I think I met JD in 2006.
Yeah.
So
that's what I would put it at, probably.
yeah.
So now somebody run the math on that. What is that? Is that
I think
17 years?
I think I would have been around 25-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's when we were both doing the hunting DVD. It's when people still bought hunting DVDs. So
Yeah.
it's been that long.
yeah.
DVDs were the new thing.
Yeah.
What? But how many years ago? It's 17 years? Or am I doing that wrong in my head? No, it's 18 years.
Yeah, it's been about 18
Should be
years.
18 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have been, roughly 24, 25, something
Yeah.
like that. So
How old was you, Doug?
How does every episode come around to this?
I always appreciate when Doug comes on.
Yeah.
Doug is our, I don't know.
Mascot.
Plucky
I was
comic
think-
relief.
I was thinking.
Punching bag.
Yeah, what's the,
Sometimes.
what's the Mexican pinata?
Pinata.
Yeah. So
Is
And when you
delicious
hit-
treats going to come out of you when we hit you? Because I'll hit you more.
almost
likely
certainly. Yeah.
So anyway, it's been 18 years, and this
Yeah.
is JD Huitt.
Yeah, that's right. So this is episode 9, in case you guys are wondering. This week we are tackling an interesting topic, I feel like, and that is the history of hunting. I feel like JD probably has a pretty good understanding of that. And the reason why is because JD has a good understanding of history in general. So would you argue or?
Yes, I would argue that. But, maybe
Here we
the
go.
in general part would be correct. Yeah.
But you're a history teacher, or have been.
Yes.
Are you still?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a history major, right?
I did go to school for history.
For history.
Yeah. But my wealth of knowledge
about
is,
you,
And I
Doug?
was there for history.
is
Yeah.
pennies in
I
comparison.
passed. I passed history at the high school level,
Yeah.
I think.
I'm with you.
Or they passed me, put it that way.
Yeah, they got rid of you.
No, history was one of my subjects I probably did well in.
Yeah.
The rest of them, not so much.
You're kind of like a kidney stone. You got passed, but it was difficult.
Wow.
Right off the top of my head, man.
Yeah.
Nathan, I disagree with everything you
Yeah.
said.
So you're a history teacher.
Yep. History teacher. And explain for the audience exactly what you do, I guess would be.
Yeah. I mean, as far as stuff in the history universe or in the history realm, probably the thing that, outside of that I'm most involved in is a YouTube channel called The History Underground.
Okay.
Started it in the spring of 2019. I
Spring
think-
of 2019.
yeah, I think-
It's that new.
Yeah, Memorial Day of 2019 was the first video that I posted.
Hmm.
I
I guess I thought maybe it was, so that's only just a few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had in my head it was older than that.
Yeah. So the
Awesome.
basic structure of the YouTube channel, it's called the History Underground, and that's kind of an umbrella term for all of the different things that are on the channel. So there's 2 different shows primarily. One being a series called History Traveler, which, as the name implies, is travel to historic places, and it's me just walking around and pointing the camera at myself like an idiot, and showing these different historic places. And the other is in partnership with the Gettysburg Museum of History, and it's a series called American Artifact, and it's, as the name implies, teaching history through artifacts that are there at the museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
And
And you've done quite a few. I've watched several of yours at that museum. Some neat stuff there.
Thanks.
how many videos do you think you've posted at this point?
Okay, so I actually have a very close number. to this because somebody pointed out to me just a few days ago that I needed to post a few more videos because I had 666 videos up on the channel. So I posted a few since then. So it's probably like around
Okay. All right.
6.
Well, we'll finish the show.
Yeah. It's probably sitting around like 675 or something like that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
All right.
So approaching 700
Yeah.
videos.
Man,
Yeah. So
that's a lot of work.
That is. And what's that mean for, like, I guess, is there several a month?
That's virtually 3 a week, right?
Yeah. So
It's 3 a week?
I maintain a pretty aggressive tempo. So there's 2 to 3 like full length episodes every week that I put up.
And some people would hear and think, well, I can push play on you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have
Because
no
I
idea.
probably would have thought that at one time before I was
Right.
behind the scenes, like even with making the DVDs, deer hunting, and now just briefly into podcast and trying to keep a Facebook Live audience and stuff like that informed and all that stuff. It's it's way more significant than just push and
It
play.
sure is.
If you do 3 videos a week, I don't know how you still teach school.
Yeah. I just don't sleep very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that explains that.
So do you do
Between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, and I'll that's kind of a lot of just uninterrupted time. Some people who may be familiar with Jocko Willink, when they hear that I wake up that early, they say, "Oh, you must listen to Jocko." I'm like, well, yeah, but I was actually doing that long before Jocko was even a public presence. Where it actually came from is Joe Sir. So on a TV show that we all used to work on, Joe told me one time, he mentioned something about waking up at 4:30, and I was like, "Why you wake up that early?" And he said, "Man, the world is mine at that point."
the most productive?
He said it. He said it's uninterrupted time. Nobody is calling me. Nobody is texting me. The kids don't have any demands. He said I get in about 3 or 4 hours of work before the kids are up, and then I'll spend a couple hours with them, breakfast and everything, and then can go on about my work day with phone calls or whatever I need to do.
That makes me reevaluate some things. It really does.
It's the best time of day, man. Yeah.
I love to be up that early, and sadly, it's not generally to do much work.
Drink a lot of coffee and
Man, but I do. And I don't do it every morning, but I'll go through periods where I'm up at 4:30.
Yeah.
Sipping on a cup of coffee, either thinking about going hunting or, of course I pastor. So sometimes I do use that just to get alone.
Yeah.
Talk to the Lord a little bit. Nobody bugs you. Nobody bothers you because, well, I wonder what the percentage of the world is asleep in your time zone anyway.
Boy, I don't know.
I bet it's a strong 90+% are still
I would say so.
At the
or-
4 a.m. point. Yeah. I'd say.
or just barely starting to move,
I've just barely been asleep.
Just getting settled in.
Yeah.
That's like,
So you crank out roughly 3 videos a week.
Yeah, 2 to 3 a week.
2 to 3 a week.
Yeah.
And teach, is it high school level?
Yes.
History.
Yep.
Man, God bless you, brother.
And you have
High school kids are challenging.
kids,
Yes.
3 kids
Yeah, 3 kids.
that are, I would assume now, getting grown.
Yeah, they're all out of high school, or I still got
Getting
one
really
in high
close.
school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one left getting ready to graduate.
Yeah. Well, you say fist bump now, but when you see that I've driven myself to an early grave, you may think maybe I had the right course of action. Maybe I made the right choices in life.
You're not in the grave yet. You're looking good.
So this evening we're drinking Black Rifle's Tactisquatch,
Tactisquatch.
and which brings up one question one of the first questions I'd like to ask you. Is there a conspiracy theory that you prescribe to?
No.
None.
No, there's really not.
As a history buff, Lee Harvey Oswald. Did he kill him?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Now, I do wholeheartedly believe that it's deeper, that he's not, acting alone.
Yeah.
I guess.
So you do have some conspiracy.
I don't consider that a conspiracy.
So when you say,
Uh,
that old saying, talk to me like I'm 10, or maybe even down to about 8. When you say conspiracy that you subscribe to, I guess you're saying that you believe in or look into.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Are you a flat earther?
Yeah.
No, I'm not that.
No, I'm tackling that kind of stuff on the channel all the time. Everybody's always got a conspiracy theory that
Well,
they're throwing
there
at me.
seems to always be some sort of conspiracy always tied to any
Yeah.
history,
Right.
anywhere to some
Sure.
degree. Does it get marred through time? Is it recorded correct? And who got to record it? And did they leave out the parts that they didn't like and stuff like that?
Yeah. So you get into all that kind of stuff. What I
Yeah.
found though is that
I'm a conspiracy guy. I am.
here's what happens though in my mind is it gets to the point where, like, take the moon landing for example.
Never happened.
Oh,
come
Here we
on.
go. This is going to get good.
It gets to the point where
If it were cheese.
that to carry out the conspiracy itself becomes more difficult than actually going to the moon.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
think
so.
so. See,
in that regard.
I join that.
Yeah.
Because I've thought people have worked harder. It would be harder not to go. It seems like. I mean, with what they've done and maybe
Yeah.
not.
I don't know. I'm not a moon guy. I'm not.
Well, I don't want to go there.
It's in the sky.
Well,
Yeah,
when Elon Musk goes up there in a couple years, and we'll see if those flags are up there or not.
It seems very convenient to me that of all the things that we've done, that it's like, we did that. We don't need to go back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have they never been back? They've been back, haven't they?
I mean, they went back in the 60s, but since
Didn't
then, they're
Russia
not.
also
so the
other
first-
places have made it there, or so they claim?
No. So the first moon landing.
Nope, everybody else is losers.
Yeah, it was the Apollo 11 mission in July of 1969. And then we went back on Apollo 12. Apollo 13 went around the moon. And then it was either 16 or 17. So yeah, there were missions through the early 70s, but
Yeah.
then we started shifting into the space shuttle program, and never went back.
Which they got there and they're like, it's not what we thought it was.
Well, do we need to do
It's
this
not
again?
cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, what about with the?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
It just, you can really fall in a hole on
Yeah.
that.
And we don't
whole-
want to make it a conspiracy
Yes,
show.
we don't. Yeah.
And,
Because that's not
and
even
no
why we-
doubt there are some things out there that are hidden, and they've pulled the wool over our eyes on something.
Now
for sure.
yes, I will agree with
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
no doubt. There's things out there that.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that, as more information comes out, or as we revisit it and things like that, you look at it from a different perspective and you gain a new understanding. That doesn't mean that there was necessarily a conspiracy to pull the wool over people's eyes all the time. It just means that people were doing the best with what they could at the time.
I'm having a hard time getting away. Why would they pull the wool over our eyes about the moon? What would be the significance of it?
Because we're in the space race.
just
We're
to make
trying
us-
to beat Russia.
Yeah, but
Like at that
did it
time,
change anything? Oh, we made it to the moon.
Sure,
Russia's
it changed
well,
everything
if-
in regards to public perception.
Well, if you're not first,
I mean,
you're
they wrote a
last.
song about it. Was it REM or who did that song?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
You know it was.
I don't know. To me, that's why it was such a convenience.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we've got to beat them. And then we beat them and we're like, all right, we're good. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a lot of people keeping a secret.
It is.
A lot of people.
Or it's not. I mean, maybe they went away with the dodo.
Oh boy, now this is getting big.
All right. So let's go ahead and start with the topic at hand.
Sure.
And that is the history of hunting. I'm not saying that this is entirely a hunting podcast, but is primarily pertaining to hunting.
Lots of roots there.
Yeah, we enjoy the pastime. And I feel like all of us have kind of started in that area. And that being the case, we want to look at what that looked like down through history. And I feel like you probably can speak to that to some degree.
Well, it's taken how we met, because we met through making DVDs
We did.
of a hunting show, self-produced, self-filmed, all that stuff. and then marrying it to where you are and what you're doing kind of now.
Yeah, well,
Kind of a neat idea.
we are the beneficiaries of a long history of hunting in this country.
That's a
and
great way to put it.
everything like that.
Yeah.
So once you start understanding, kind of like what has gone on before you, it helps you to appreciate, kind of what we are doing.
Yeah.
Right now is outdoorsmen, and who has really kind of built the foundation that we are now operating on.
And I think it's a good topic to speak on because a lot of people, there's a great misconception that hunters abuse the the resources that are animals.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they don't give much thought to the fact that many of the hunters that are out there were some of the greatest conservationists that
Absolutely. So I mean, just like in any story, with hunters, there are plenty of villains.
Sure.
There are some people who did some absolutely reprehensible things, and there are some heroes, like Teddy Roosevelt. Would be the one who comes to mind, who's a personal hero of mine, just in general, who did more to preserve wildlife and conserve resources than I would say any other president.
I think you deal with the stigmatism of a lot of people that aren't hunters.
Yeah.
That and this being this, and there's probably a vast lack of understanding concerning. You have to slice it just like it is. It has turned into a sport to some degree. Sport hunting. Yes, we still hunt for meat. We eat what we kill and all that stuff, but they refer to it as sportsman,
Right.
Sportsman's Guide
Yeah.
and that type of thing. But if it had not been for the people that were minded that way, because they're like, I want to be able to do this and I want my kids to be able to do this. So even though they were going out and enjoying hunting the biggest elk on the mountain or whatever it is, or the biggest group of ducks in the bottoms and all that stuff, they developed mindsets that we need to put things in place that we can always be able to do this.
Yeah.
And
puts
if
a
it had
value
not
on it.
been, if it had been, I think sometimes if it had just been a mindset, we're just killing to eat, we got to kill to eat, it may have never, because sometimes I think, it turns into abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get on the story of the buffalo and we may cover stuff like that, but I just sometimes think if it had not turned into the sporting event that it is, maybe there wouldn't be near the conservation that there is around.
See,
it
I
to
think
protect it.
there would be the other argument there, though. And
What's
I mean,
the other argument?
well, I mean that the
conspiracy.
sportsman aspect of it caused more killing to occur at maybe not at the hand of wanting to, use it for food or those purposes.
Yeah, but it's always the guy that loves the animal, and you would call him the sportsman of that animal.
Yeah.
It's almost always
but what you
him.
referred to in regards to the buffalo, they weren't going out there
Well,
solely with
that's
it. I mean,
that
when you've
turned
got
into
trains
business.
going out and they're shooting them off
Did
the
that not a lot of
trains,
that turn in? That was like a businessmen that came in and just
it's the world's first outfitter.
Yeah. So we can, we can talk about the buffalo a little bit, because to me, I think that's one of the great tragedies in American history. Of what happened with the, people say buffalo, I guess American bison might be more proper.
Right.
Historically, the buffalo, or the American bison that we have, are descendants of buffalo that came out of Asia and came across the land bridge between Russia and Alaska, and then made their way down.
So,
was.
somewhat muskox-esque.
Not really muskox. Well, maybe a little bit muskox, water buffalo, something like that.
Muskox have like a boss horn.
They do, but
yeah.
But if you're talking about descendants of something, I mean, there's got to be a base.
Yeah. Anyway, so like in the 1800, there's an estimate that we had 60 million buffalo, bison in this country. Okay,
pretty good herd.
Well, let's go ahead and establish that we're just going to use buffalo and bison interchangeably. Okay. So it's same thing.
Yep, that works.
All right. So there were 60 million bison in the United States. Now, what I do with people when I'm describing what happened with the bison is I compare it to white-tailed deer today. Any guesses on the national population of white-tailed deer?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I was looking at something earlier, and Illinois was significant in itself, the
Yeah.
state that we're in now.
Sure.
So it would be, if it mirrored Illinois, it would be close to 50 to 60 million.
Okay, so Illinois is the anomaly because
Right.
we have a lot of
A
deer
lot.
here in this state.
Yeah.
It's estimated that nationwide the population is between 30 to 35 million.
Wow.
Still significant, yeah.
Okay, so population of buffalo in 1800 is 60 million. Throughout the first part of the 1800s, there's some pressure that gets put on the bison, where the slaughter really kind of skyrockets, is in like the 1860s, 1870s. 1862, we have the Homestead Act, where they start giving away free land
Yeah.
in the West. So you start seeing more people migrating to the West. You also have the Transcontinental Railroad that is allowing more people west. So by the end of the century, we went from 60 million bison in this country to, on the high end, 1,000.
No kidding.
I've seen estimates as low as 350 nationwide.
Wow.
So take that and compare it to the white-tailed deer population. And
So they massacred them.
let's say it got down to 1,000, a population of 1,000 nationwide.
The bison.
The bison,
Yeah.
We'll go with that number. What that would look like with white-tailed deer. Now we go out and you literally see deer about every day in the Midwest.
I counted 94 the other night. Within 30 acres of each other they're all in the same field, 30-acre cornfield.
Imagine that for whatever reason, people just start a nationwide slaughter on white-tailed deer, and the population nationwide goes from, let's say, 30 million to 500. You're averaging 10 deer per state. That's what happened to the American bison. Crazy.
I mean, imagine that the 94 that you saw just made up 1/5 of the population.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's an absolute tragedy.
So what exactly happened
That's what I was
to
going to
push
ask,
it to that point?
because that's really, it about has to be before hunting, and that kind of comes back to the sportsman guy. Good sportsmanship would have been like, I got to leave some for seed. I got to only shoot so many bulls and then so many cows.
So what happens is there's an intersection of low information, low education, and greed.
Yeah.
And all of those things converge, we nearly lost the American bison.
The whole herd.
So what was happening was there became there's a whole lot of things that are going on. I'll try and
yeah, that's all right. We got a little bit of time. So
Okay.
I like it.
So there became a huge market for buffalo hides.
Yeah.
So you have these market hunters who are coming out. If you ever hunt bison, you go out there. It's the largest land animal in the United States. They get upwards of about a ton. Is a pretty good size one.
yeah.
So there's not a whole lot that really messes with a bison, and they also run in these giant herds.
Yeah.
So these people go out with these repeating rifles, and you could just drop these things all day long. I'm sure everybody here has heard
Shooting
of Buffalo
like
Bill Cody.
Shooting them like prairie dogs. Kind of.
Yeah, a lot like that.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill Cody, one man. When the Transcontinental Railroad is moving west, was it the Atchison-Topeka line? It was the one that goes through Kansas. So it wasn't the Union Pacific that was the first Transcontinental Railroad. But anyway, that doesn't matter. He gets a job of killing buffalo and providing meat for the workers that are coming out. This is how he gets the name Buffalo Bill. In a 2-year span, he kills 4,000.
Huh.
Just himself.
4,000. Just a crazy amount. So you have all of these people who are coming out. You have these market hunters that are shooting them and just stripping the hides off of them, leaving the rest to rot. As the trains are coming out west, they kind of marketed the experience of going out west. One of the things you can do is you can shoot buffalo from the train.
Yeah.
So people, it goes from, okay, we're going to harvest these for the Native Americans.
So it's not a hunting experience. It's a
killing
It's
experience.
an
Yeah.
out west experience.
Yeah. So I mean, these are like city people.
Yeah.
Shoot the
in a lot of
2,000
cases.
pound buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just start wiping these things out. Now, if it's in the 1800s, there's no internet. Telegraph is kind of a thing, but there's low information. There's not conservation biologists that are going out and
Right.
doing population surveys. So these people were just blindly killing these animals by the millions, and had no clue what kind of damage they were doing. It was kind of one of those things where they thought they'll always be here. You look out at a
Right.
field and it's black with bison, and you think, oh, they'll always be here. Yeah, we could kill 1,000 of these today, and it's not going to make a dent.
What was I mean, so the means of social communication back then, what they have telegraph
And the press.
Yeah.
and
I
the
mean,
press,
Yeah.
and then just word of mouth.
Yeah.
So
But-
you had lots of people that, I mean, how do you broadcast? Hey, we need to slow down.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm noticing there's not hardly any buffalo left.
Yeah.
You just have every Tom and Harry out there being like, well, there's one.
So
Right.
there's also a more sinister element to this as well, in that at the same time that you have westward expansion, you have this friction and this conflict between the white settlers who are going out west and the Native American
Right.
population that is already there. They relied so much on the bison. I don't know if there's ever been another example in human history of a relationship between people and an animal like what there was between the Native Americans and the bison.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that they used everything from the tail to the snort.
Hmm.
Like even in their ceremonies, they would
Yeah.
there was a snort, like the bison. So they used everything.
And if you think about it, it's so sustained them, because if there's 60 million of them,
Mhm.
they didn't. I'm assuming. See, this is things I take for granted. We just always assume. We know they were more grass-fed prairie animals, but there's prairies in middle central Illinois. There's probably buffalo there.
Yeah.
at
Oh
one
yeah. Oh
time.
yeah. They were.
Did
They were
they-
in Kentucky. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Did they span from almost coast to
Like
coast, or
Virtually.
Virtually. Yeah.
Yeah. They were on this side of the Appalachian.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
So
So I mean, if you think about that, when there's 60 million from basically from the Smokies to the Rockies,
Mhm.
it was easy to go get a hamburger.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, kind of for the
Well,
Native Americans,
yeah.
They
it was
took it-
such a relationship.
the
because-
white man took it for granted, essentially.
Yeah. So for the Native Americans, there's obviously the food
the
element,
food, shelter,
shelter,
But also
and also
the-
clothing.
clothing,
and
tools.
also
I'd say
they
made
probably
tools.
looked at it as a religious aspect as
There's
well.
there's also that. So if you are going out and you are trying to subdue this population, you can go out and you can fight them,
Or you can get rid of their grocery store.
or you can get rid of everything that they use for food, clothing, and shelter,
Yeah.
and break them down that way, and make it to where they have to come to the government and rely on them, because once the buffalo are gone, that's it, they're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the more sinister aspect
Right.
of the destruction of the bison
So
population.
you kind of had like almost more than a trifecta taking place against the bison.
Yeah,
'Cause you had people shooting them for fun. Because I'm going
Right,
west.
Right.
They said I can shoot a buffalo out the train
Yeah.
window or
yeah,
whatever.
get that Western experience. Yeah,
Yeah. And
See
then
the
you
Grand
had-
Canyon and kill a
Yeah,
bison.
yeah, and then you had people. There was, we know of Buffalo Bill Cody, but there was probably many more like him,
Right.
Yeah.
killing 4,000 in 2 years to feed
Yeah.
railroad workers
Mhm.
and whatever. Then you had the business end of people selling for leather and
Yep.
and everything else. So they were getting hammered.
Well, and this also has, just like any ecological disaster, it wasn't localized just to the bison. Anytime you take something out of an ecosystem, it's
Other
going to
things
affect
fill it.
everything else around it.
Yeah.
So you have the bison, they're eating the prairie grass. Well, now they're not eating all of those
Right.
resources anymore. They make these big wallows. Okay, those wallows would fill up with water, and then different organisms would use that. Okay, that's no longer there. Okay, so to take a bad story and make it even worse, once the bison population had pretty much been wiped out, you have these market hunters that are going out who were killing the bison just for their hides, and they're like, well, there's no more bison anymore, and we still need skins. Well, let's start shooting elk and antelope and deer and everything like that.
Right.
So the slaughter shifted to other species after that. And I mean, there were stories like from my grandpa when he was a kid. He was born in 1927. To see a white-tailed deer in my state in the 1930s was unheard of.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it was here.
Yeah, that's right.
He told me that if somebody, when deer finally started to come back in, again, it's something that we see every day now and don't even think anything about it.
Dodging them on the road.
Right.
Now they're almost a nuisance in a way,
Yeah,
especially for farmers. But if somebody saw a deer track, that was big news in town.
Yeah.
So has that been at the hand of conservation, or has that just been natural, population growth?
Oh, definitely conservation, 100%.
Yeah. And I guess that's
100%.
what I was talking about earlier. Someone fell in love with a white-tailed deer. Somebody fell in love
Right.
with the buffalo, and it's like, we got to put things in motion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who those people would be. You could research
Well,
and probably find
Theodore
some of them.
Roosevelt is a major.
Roosevelt's a big one.
Yeah.
Roosevelt is.
He's kind of known as like the father of conservation.
Yeah.
So.
And Roosevelt, he's one of my favorite he's not one of, he is my favorite historical figure of all time. That doesn't mean that he's not without his flaws.
You ought to shave your beard to where you get the big.
Yeah, like
chops.
those old early Teddy Roosevelt chops. Yeah.
Then he wear the little round.
Yeah, the glasses.
Yeah. He had the little
I think
spectacles.
you could pull it off.
Yeah.
With very little work.
That's an interesting story because he got those after someone tried to teach him how to shoot, and he realized he couldn't shoot. Did you know that? Or that's the story that I've heard.
I've not heard that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't surprise me because he was born in New York City.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
he was a city kid.
Yeah. People look at the end product of Teddy Roosevelt, the
Rough
outdoorsman and the Rough Rider and everything like that.
Carry a big stick.
Yeah. He's born in New York City into a wealthy family in 1858.
Yeah.
So he is a city boy through and through, was a real sickly child, had asthma. And the doctors, to the best of my recollection, advised like, man, keep this kid in a bubble. Don't. And his dad said, we're going to beat this. We're going to lift weights. We're going to exercise. We're going to do all this stuff, and we're going to we're going to push through this. Now he struggled with asthma all his life, but he actually worked himself out of a debilitating case of asthma. It's crazy.
He spent the first 3 years of his life in bed.
Yeah, he very, very sickly child.
Yeah, they said asthma was like really, really bad. A really bad case of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it something that maybe would also help not to be in the city? I don't know what they dealt with in the 1850s as far as the pollution in the air in the bigger cities.
I don't think pollution in the air was as bad as the feces in the streets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hard to get much worse than that.
Which dissipates to the air.
Anytime
I walk past
similar
it,
to San Francisco these days.
But he's really an interesting figure because he's this rich city kid.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I guess we can all think of our kids, how they all have different interests and everything like that. He becomes really interested in the natural world.
Yeah.
Okay, quick little side note. Here is a story that I love to tell. You can go on to the National Archives. And like I said, Roosevelt is born in 1858. So just a couple of years before the Civil War begins. So his early years would have been when this nation was at war. Lincoln is assassinated in April of 1865. And after Lincoln was assassinated, to get from D.C. to Springfield, Illinois. It was kind of a long, circuitous route. So they took the train through these different cities where people could pay their respects and, see the processional and everything like that. There is a photo that was taken of Lincoln's processional in New York City. And it's taken from a building, and it's kind of high up. And I wish that I had it here to show you. But in the photo, you see Lincoln's processional, and then there's a building in the background, and in one of the windows, there's a little kid, and that's Teddy Roosevelt.
Wow.
You have two presidents separated
in the same picture.
In the same picture. So it's Teddy Roosevelt at probably he's either 6 or 7 at that point.
One of them
watching the assassinated president go
one
by.
of them heading for his grave, and the other one heading to be a president one day.
Yep.
Just
on the
starting
path.
life, and one ended.
Yeah.
In the same picture. That's interesting, especially in that day when nowadays it wouldn't be nothing to say, well, somebody got a picture of this because there's a jillion pictures being posted.
I smell a conspiracy.
Yes. Are we sure this child is where they say
he didn't have
Come
those little
on now.
glasses and that mustache and all that stuff. Can't be for sure.
But at age 7, so that same year, this is it's so interesting because you don't think of kids like this today. He goes to a local market. Now, why this is at the local market, I don't know. But there's a seal head at the local market.
I've heard this.
And he takes an interest in it and brings it home. And that gets that's kind of the spark for him
I want to get where this came from.
to get into like natural history. And at age 7, he starts the Roosevelt Museum of Natural History.
Yes.
And starts
age 7.
Yes.
At 7 and starts doing taxidermy.
Yeah,
at
he
age
starts
7.
doing
How
birds,
about that?
taxidermy on birds.
Yeah.
Man, we're all behind the ball.
No
Way
joke.
behind.
James, you need to step it up.
What are you in the 8th grade?
Yeah.
Drinking a cup of coffee over there. Maybe you should start your own coffee company.
Well, one thing I found fascinating is that he gave over 10,000 different mounts to the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
I mean, dude was a straight up killer.
But that's where I say, at the same time, a sportsman, a conservationist that recognized, you're talking about the history of hunting. If it wasn't for people like that. So I was thinking, as you're telling, you said he was born 1858, and right about in there at the end of the 1800s when you said we're down to about 1,000 bison.
So
he was like, by the time he's a young adult, he's probably like,
he's seen the danger of it, and
watched him start
recognizes
to
what
come. Maybe
conservation
he
is.
probably got to watch them in his lifetime begin to make their comeback, and probably was instrumental in it, maybe a little bit.
He was instrumental in it. Whether he traveled out west that early, I don't know. I know that he, the dude just does all kinds of things with his life.
Did because he traveled like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I know
you said he was born to a wealthy family, so he had
was and
had the
ability.
means,
Yeah.
Like there's accounts of him doing all sorts of travels to like India and Asia, and like even as a kid. And he talked about how much he hated the traveling, but
but loved probably seeing the new places.
Yeah, where he really kind of falls in love with the West, I think, is he gets married as a young guy, and in 1880, February the 12th, his wife gives birth to their first child, a girl named Alice. And on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, he has this tragic moment in his life. His mother and his wife both die in the same house on the same day.
Whoa.
2 days after the birth of his child.
Yeah.
So there are all these mixed emotions. There's a diary entry that you can look at online, and on February 14th, there's just an X, and below it says, "The light has gone out of my life." And he's so grief. He never really talked about it in his later years, but he's so grief stricken by that he basically turns Alice over to other family members, and he just goes out west.
Goes on the great kill.
Yeah, goes out to Medora, North Dakota. And at that time would have been Dakota Territory.
Yeah.
And basically just kind of lives out there for a couple years. I think kind of maybe trying to get his mind right and everything.
Hmm.
But it's out there that he sees there aren't many bison left, or they are drastically dropping in number. So he kind of sets on this path of becoming a very conservation minded person that's eventually going to carry over to when he's in the White House.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And he loved to hunt.
Oh,
Right? He's,
Love to hunt.
I mean, you're
I mean,
making,
dude, if you give 10,000 mounts.
10,000 tax it when people, I was,
we talked about that earlier about whether, and you've been to the Smithsonian, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't see any of his mounts?
At the time that I was there, I did not.
Yeah.
Now that could be because they either didn't have them out or I just didn't see them.
Man, it would seem like that would be a building to itself.
You would think so. So he kills his first bison in the Dakota Territories in 1883. Comes back from the West, which by this time, market hunters are slaughtering animals out there like crazy. It deeply concerns him. And in 1887, he becomes one of the founding members of the Boone and Crockett Club.
Huh.
Yeah. So the Boone and Crockett Club.
I had heard that.
Yeah.
That's a little tidbit I remember. I've got a Boone and Crockett book, like on the history of Boone and Crockett, and I skimmed through it enough. I think I've seen that. He was one of the founding.
Daniel
names on the
Boone's an
roll.
interesting figure too when it comes to hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little research in preparation for all this, but I saw where there was a guy named Joshua Fry who he went out and went into, at the time we've got 13 colonies, but Kentucky, they had talked about making the 14th colony. And the Kentucky territory basically was filled with deer and bison and, various animals. And this Joshua Fry went into the Kentucky territory and in 365 days brought back 5,000 deer hides.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like, now, whether it was him by himself or whether he had a party with him, I don't know. But even if you had a party with him,
Think if you had a party of 100.
yeah.
You're
Each one of them, I mean, times that out or divide that out. Each one of them had to kill hundreds.
you'd be killing about, with 100, you'd be killing about 50 apiece.
50.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
None of us are going out and killing 50 deer in a
because
season.
for one, they
Right,
didn't
right.
have that when you're talking. They didn't
But
have
the
repeating
numbers had to have
rifles.
been insane. For
Yeah,
that
so
to
it was
be-
probably
Right.
to do that. They had to be a bunch of them.
Had to be a target-rich environment. at the
Yes,
time.
we like target.
And they said he came back 365 days after he had went on, because they called them long hunts, and a long hunt back then was a year or more.
right.
Like you were going out for a year or more on a long hunt. And when he came back, he had so much money from those hides that he was able to buy a farm in the Shenandoah Valley that, pretty interesting. But Daniel Boone saw that and basically took what he had seen from this Joshua Fry and went into the Kentucky territory to do a similar thing. Now, in the course of it, he got raided by Indians and, like his own daughter even got taken hostage by Indians.
So
Right, Daniel Boone's did.
Yeah.
He went and got her back though. Didn't
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
impressive story.
I have a direct ancestor who was with Daniel Boone's party when they got raided.
Really?
Yeah. There were three brothers named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego Inman.
That's awesome.
That is.
And-
I was waiting for a joke, and I realized, he's being serious.
No, I'm being dead serious. Yeah, yeah. One of the brothers got
Me
killed.
shack, your shack,
Yeah,
and a bungalow. My
yeah.
shack,
So they were
your-
part of that. So yeah. So Daniel Boone is a huge influence on Teddy Roosevelt. He's a very educated guy.
Yeah.
Writes books and things like that. So yeah, when he forms this conservation minded organization, it's Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett that they name it after.
Yeah.
So they hunted, so you'd have to say that these guys you're talking about were hunting a little bit for business
Yes.
and a little bit for survival, probably. I mean, everybody back then was hunting to some degree for
Subsistence.
survival.
Yeah.
And then I got thinking, when you bring back 5,000 deer hides, so what would be the primary even for the early settlers, they're probably all wearing buckskins and
their pants were made of deer, a lot of them,
because it's
and
more
their gloves.
supple, right? It's a little more pliable and works for walking.
Yeah. I've got a guy that I follow on TikTok that still he wears all of his pants are made out of
probably a lot of footwear out of something like a buffalo.
Yeah, moccasins.
Because of buffaloes, you're talking tougher, thicker hide that would hold up to boot leather or something.
And by the time it gets to Teddy Roosevelt, for him, it's a scientific endeavor as well, hunting. So Boone and Crockett Club.
Well, studying the animal, right?
Yeah. So there's that. With the Boone and Crockett Club, people who are listening to this podcast probably more in the hunting community. When you think of the Boone and Crockett Club, of course, they're a conservation-minded organization. The scoring system.
Yeah.
Do you know why that even exists?
No.
It's not bragging rights. Okay.
Well, it is today.
It is today.
You're saying it didn't start that way.
Correct.
This would be good to know for people.
Sure.
It's enlighten us.
What it has turned into is a measuring system for us to judge the trophy quality of a deer.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, okay, I killed a buck and he was 190 inches non-typical. Okay, I'm talking about Lathan right now, not me.
I wonder. Just real quick side note. I wonder how many, especially younger hunters, probably, because now it's evolved into a booner,
right?
And do they even know?
And why did Crockett get left out of that?
That's a joke.
Let's start calling. It's like, I think it was a Crockett.
That's a bunch of Crockett.
It was a bloody crock. But
anyway, good.
But probably, I bet there's a bunch of kids James' age that's heard booners so much that they probably don't even understand that it's Boone and Crockett and that it derives from Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
I bet they don't know that.
Yeah.
Now you do.
The scoring system.
Go ahead and enlighten us.
I feel like there needs to be that star. Like,
The more you know. Yeah.
The more you know.
The scoring system actually originated as a scientific measurement. What they wanted to do was have some way to measure the health of the animal populations. So the way they did that, of course, that today, if you want big bucks, they need
minerals.
They need minerals. They need food. Okay, all of that goes into antler growth.
Yes. It does.
If you have poor soil and poor nutrients, okay, it's going to affect the size of the antler.
It reflects on the size.
So the scoring system was actually designed to have a scientific measurement that when you have, we'll just take a whitetail deer for example, in an area where the measurements are larger, hey, the population is healthy there. They're getting enough food, the nutrients, they're getting the things they need. Okay, over here where our numbers seem to be a little bit lower, well, this is an indication that this is a population that might be in need. That's the original purpose of the scoring system. It's not as a trophy measurement. So like trophy hunting has kind of been given a bad name. But it has actually resulted in healthier populations of animals.
That's what I was getting ready to say, because hunters today are trying to make bigger deer in the wild. And they're doing that by fertilizing their soils, putting out good food, minerals if they can, all that stuff, letting the genetically better deer, so to speak, live a few more years to pass on that genetics and stuff like that. So ultimately, by doing what they're doing, they're achieving what he was doing or what he was studying.
Right.
Why he set that system up to study.
Yeah.
Because if we've got bigger deer, and we've talked the other day in a podcast, we live in the golden age of whitetails.
100%.
They're bigger than they've ever been in the wild.
I want to live in the platinum age.
The platinum.
Well, hey, listen, I mean,
we're headed for platinum. What's after that?
In our lifetime,
man.
I don't know how
beryllium.
in our lifetime, we've seen some huge advances. In my state, when I was a kid, you had to draw for a doe tag. And that was a huge deal. Like you would put in your application in August.
Draw for a doe. Wow.
We had to put in for a doe tag.
Probably because the population, right?
Population.
And they don't want you to kill a doe. So they had to issue just so many.
And that's early 90s when that's happening.
Yeah.
So
the history here, I've lived through a part of that because, and Doug and Wes has too. We'll join you in there. I'm sorry. We're all basically saying, so here's the deal. We've all four lived through this. But here in Illinois, what I mean is I don't remember the year. And I think we talked about this the other day. So our history here, somewhere around 96, they turned us back to, we could only kill 2 bucks. Because we had several years before that. You just go buy another tag, go buy another tag, go buy another tag. And within, it was like 4 years. I remember just a few years. And I remember at the time being a young kid thinking, man, I can only kill 2 bucks. I got it. So, but it did put something within me. It's like, well, I'm going to let that feller go.
Yeah.
Because I can only kill 2
of them. Right.
Yeah. But within 4 years, all of a sudden, whammo, I remember being like, oh, there's bigger deer around.
Yeah.
There seemed like there's more good deer around.
And it's all hunters pushing that forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That seems like a good point to take a break for a few minutes. We've got a message to talk to you guys about, and we'll come right back. In the meantime, Doug's going to tell us about what it was like to see the buffalo go away.
It was something.
Oh,
all right. We'll be right back.
Is that okay? Is that kind of what you're...
Oh, yeah. Really good.
Fascinating.
So here we are, nearly 9 weeks into Up for Discussion podcast. And Lathan and I would just like to say thank you so much for all those who've been watching week in and week out. It means a lot to us, and we greatly appreciate it. However, there's one thing that you could do that would help us out tremendously right now. And what it is if you're watching on Facebook, like, subscribe, comment, share. All those things help to push us up and to let us not only stay in contact with you, but also to make sure that we can grow this channel in an efficient manner. If you're watching on YouTube, one thing that you can do is you can hit the bell up at the top. That bell will subscribe you to our channel on YouTube. So anytime that we upload a video, you are the first to know. All those things will help us not only grow the channel and the page, but also continue to bring fantastic outdoor entertainment to you guys at home. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're providing you guys with not only knowledge, education, but also entertainment. So sit back and we're going to continue Up for Discussion podcast.